athletes turned therapists. Our focus in these episodes is to humanize the athlete experience beyond the lines of their arena. In this podcast, we will explore the whole athlete, highlighting the mental, emotional, and social aspects of their journey.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Millennium Counseling Center podcast. For those who hear this voice often, maybe, and you've heard my voice in the past, I am Lyda Robinson, and I am one of the clinical interns at Millennium Counseling Center. And today, honestly, I decided to come on and do a podcast by myself today because something came up for me as a former athlete that has not come up for me in a while, and I kind of want to talk about it. We're always trying to push out new content and stuff like that, and sometimes I think a good yap session is needed, especially maybe by myself. So to kind of talk about what exactly happened to me, a little bit ago I just recorded a podcast with Sasa about like the athletes that we admired growing up and what that was like, and then we kind of went on about like female athletes and, you know, how it's so much more than the playing that matters, and like little eyes are looking up to you and all of that. So it was a really good podcast. So if that one comes out before this, check it out. It's a really good one. But I wanted to talk about today when I was doing, the reason I brought that up is because I was doing research on my favorite athlete growing up, Jenny Finch. And then when I got older, Rachel Garcia from UCLA. Jenny Finch went to Arizona. You probably know the name. She's very famous in the softball world. She has brand names. She has gloves. She has softball equipment. She has all of that. And I admired her a lot. But anyway, so I was doing research on that, and I, for some reason, had this hunch of like, you know, it's spring season right now, softball's in full bloom, and season's, you know, going. And I was, you know, haven't played in almost 2 years, and so I was like, I wonder if there's any SXU film, you know, out there still. Because I was always one to be updated on like, when I played, like I was always the person that made the hype videos that I loved getting people involved. I love showing highlights of everybody. I always try to include everybody's little highlight, whether it was a good play or a good hit, whatever it might have been. And so I Googled, I put on YouTube, I put SXU softball, because I went to St. Xavier, and I actually found film. I found a lot of it, actually. If you dig deep enough, you can find like live streams from years ago. And so I clicked on one that I knew, I think we were playing Lawrence Tech at the time. And I clicked on it, and I realized I think it was my junior year. Around then. So it'll be 3 years ago coming up. And watching it, I was just it brought back so much. And the reason that it's important and that why I wanted to bring it up is because I have not felt that like adrenaline and that fun anxiety, like the rush of playing until literally yesterday. So today I'm recording this February 19th. It happened February 18th. And I realized my body has not experienced that in so long. And it was something that it was craving and it was missing. And it almost was like this little clarity and dopamine hit that I have not had in so long. And the reason I wanted to share this is because maybe you are someone who has also, you know, stopped playing, and you kind of just, I mean, here at Millennium, we have a lot of counselors that were former athletes, and two of them I know distinctly, they kind of just stopped watching, they stopped learning, they stopped being excited about the game. And I think that kind of happened to me. And the reason that it did is because my last year playing, I had a really bad experience. The girls were great. It was more, I just didn't get along with some of the staff. And I kind of fell out of love with the game. And you know, in previous podcasts, I talked to Deep Boyd about maybe it was a blessing in disguise because it was easier for me to be done playing. It was easier for me to not be as sad about it. And then, you know, 2 years later, I'm watching this video of myself, and I have these feelings again, and everything just kind of floods back to where I was. And I was reflecting a lot, and I had a lot of anxiety about conversations I had with coaches and the way I could have gone about things better. I was a big person of advocating for my teammates, and if you're listening to this and you're one of my teammates, you know, and people can back me up on that. One thing about me is I'm passionate, and it may come off across something maybe you didn't like, but you can never say I wasn't passionate about what I did. And I stood up for what was important, and I did. And maybe it didn't come out the way I wanted it to, or the situation didn't happen the way it did, the way I wanted it to. But I think it just goes to show that these memories can pop up at any moment throughout your retired life as being a former athlete. Whether that's this huge adrenaline dump that I had when I was watching myself playing again. And I never really critiqued myself. I was pretty good. I'm going to be honest with you. I was a 5-year starter. I was a All-American honorable mention my junior year. I broke records. I did a lot of good stuff. And so I have a lot to show for it. And so I think, not having that anymore, 2 years later, it hits different. And I think it's because I took so much time away, is that when that little snippet comes back in my life, it's a lot to take in. And so maybe I feel like I wanted to share this because maybe you've gone through something similar. Maybe you had a bad experience at your school and you lost the love for the game and you don't watch it anymore. And I just wanted to let you know that you're not alone in that. And your experience and your feelings about what happened are valid. And you might have had a great experience, and more power to you. I had a great experience for the most part at school. I really did. I really thoroughly enjoyed St. Xavier and what it brought me. I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about who I am, how much I can handle, as a leader, as a leadoff hitter. There's a lot of pressure with that. There was so much I learned about myself. Resiliency, being bold, trying new things, adapting, overcoming. I think those are important. And while it taught me a lot, it also brought a lot of sadness to myself. And it is heartbreaking when you're grieving this former person that you were. And I bring this up again because, and I'm talking about all this, because I recognize in my life, I felt like there's always been something missing, and it's that rush of the game again. It's playing 2 doubleheaders. It's playing 4 or 5 doubleheaders in a row because things get canceled, it gets too cold, whatever the case. There's a lot that goes into being an athlete, and a lot of years and a lot of sacrifice and a lot of blood, sweat, tears, practices, conditioning, early morning lifts. Like, there's so much that goes into being an athlete, and then one day it's just gone. May 17th, 2023 is when I played my last game. I remember, my last at bat. I bunted. Why did I bunt? Because I didn't want to be the last out of the game. That was what I thought. And I knew the girl behind me, she was a really good hitter. And so I thought that we could do something after that. There's things you just don't forget. And I think that moment for me yesterday just brought a lot back. It brought a lot of memories back. And I've been talking with former teammates, because season's in full effect. You hear about things, you hear about the same mentality, the same thing that's kind of been going on in the program. History's kind of repeating itself. And, while sometimes we're not surprised that within programs, sometimes things don't change, whether you want them to or not. It just brought back a lot of emotions for me. And just reflecting on it, I have had a lot of thoughts about who I was then and who I am now. And I just hope whoever's listening to this knows that, if this experience is what you're going through right now, of where you're missing that piece of excitement and rush of the game, that I miss that part. And it's hard to fulfill that in the gym, in group stuff, in, there's so many things you can do to try and bring back that competitiveness. Because me and Sasa were also talking about it before. We were talking about how your goal was to go to a national championship or to win conference or to go above 500. Like, there were so many things on the line when you played. Stats, player of the year, all conference, all American, all region. There were so many things you wanted, records. Like, there were so many things that I pushed for that I got. And it was so fulfilling at the time. And then when May 17th came of 2023, all that's just gone. And there's reminiscing and there's talking about it with friends and there's, watching the games again, but it's just so different when you're no longer a part of it. And I realized my body was craving that. And so, I talked about it in previous podcasts about how I struggled physically. I struggled with motivation to go to the gym. I still do to this day. It's one of the biggest mental blocks I have, because when I went to the gym, when I played, I went to the gym because I wanted to get stronger. I wanted to get faster. I wanted to get, I wanted to steal the bases quicker. There were so many things that came to mind when I went to the gym. There was that internal motivation. There was external motivation of wanting to be the best, wanting to look the best, wanting to be perceived the best. There was so much that went into it. And now that it's all just kind of gone, it's how do you, Sasa talked about a little bit with me earlier. She was I kind of had a little competition with myself. And I'm like, girl, I don't know how you do that, because I I need to compete against someone. There has to be something at the end of it. And maybe that's the mindset I kind of have to start shifting myself out of, that, I talk with clients about taking care of themselves, and I talk about there's great power in being honest and vulnerable about your experiences. And so I guess maybe that's another reason I decided to kind of come on here and yap for a couple minutes and talk about my experience, because it's interesting of what comes out and what you recognize about yourself years later when you're no longer playing. And it's crazy of how much it really brings up. Yeah, I think I've done a lot of work, I've come a long way. I think 2 years ago, I was so scared about grad school and what that even looks like and how to apply. And at the time, I had a really great therapist who was also a former athlete, which helped me so much. He understood so much about what I was going through and my struggles, with the dynamics of staff for coaching players and being a leader and having to, you carry a lot of weight when you're a leader on a team too. And so he helped me so much get through those key emotional times in my life. And I'm so thankful for that person and so thankful for my therapist. And maybe he hears this because we are no longer working together. But, if you're out there, just know that I do appreciate you. And I'm thankful for the time being that we had together. And so, looking back and looking back of who I was and what I was so scared of. And now looking at me, I feel like I've had a lot of growth. And I recognize a lot about myself and the flaws I had within playing. And there's a lot of memories tied to who I was. But I'm so proud of the person that I've become. And I hope that you are proud of the person that you have become, and recognizing the hard work that you've put in to get to where you are. Whether you're listening to this as an athlete and you're terrified into your senior year and you have 4 months left of playing softball or whatever it may be, or basketball, like seasons are coming to an end right now, or whatever it is, like, be proud of how hard you've worked and recognize that this is just the very beginning of your journey. And although that chapter may be closing, there's so many doors that can open if you just are willing to be scared and to do it. Because I was so scared when I was done. I had grad school lined up. I had everything ready, but I was so scared of what that was going to look like no longer playing. What it was going to look like going to a different school and nobody even knowing what I've done and what I've accomplished, besides a very select few that I decided to tell or whatever that was. And here I am now. I'm in my second year of grad school. I will finish my classes mid-July. I graduate in December. I'll take my LCP exam in April, and I'll get my license probably in May of 26. And looking back, I realize, and I don't tell myself this enough, and I think maybe if you know the Mel Robbins podcast, she is such an inspiring, motivational person because she's just so honest. If you want to check her out, the Mel Robbins podcast, I'm pretty sure the podcast that I was listening to, it's the #1 journal exercise to become the person you've always wanted to be. And so in the show notes for her, it says, if you struggle with stress and anxiety and can't let go of the negative thoughts that keep you stuck, this episode will change your life. And the #1 journal exercise that will pull you out of your rut. This simple exercise will transform your energy so you become the person you've always wanted to be. I think something that was so inspiring about this was because she just helped me understand to talk about and just sit for a second and just be like, I'm so proud of how hard I've worked to get to where I am now. And I've persevered and I've gone through some stuff, and I know you have too. Listening to this, everybody's gone through something. And so it just inspired me to be proud of myself. But also too, I have a Christian background. I am a Christian. I do follow Jesus. And I sat for a second and I knew that I couldn't get through it without the strength and the blood of Jesus Christ. And so that was a big thing too, of I can be humble and knowing that I can be proud of myself, but also know that without the strength of the Lord behind me, I couldn't get through anything that I went through. And that was what stuck to me the most too, is being thankful that I have this relationship with Jesus to get through what I needed to get through at the time in my college career. And it's crazy that all this is coming up all because I decided to watch one simple video of myself, and it brought back so much. But I think that's important. I think that's what's important about having YouTube and being able to look back and not being scared of confronting these emotions that I had within myself. And I'm just really proud of what I've done and how I've overcome a lot. and to where I can confidently get through this next phase of my life, as a young mid-20s female. Because this world is crazy, you guys, let me tell you that. But I just hope that this is motivation for you, that if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling like you don't know what to do next, trust your gut. Trust what you think is going to be best for you. And for me, that was going to grad school. That was continuing my education. That was getting into a grad assistantship that paid for my school. And I would not be where I am now without my own internal motivation to be a therapist. And it's one of the most rewarding, complex, hard, and tough careers. But it's so worth it when I see the progress within my clients. And that's something really cool. And so if I could say anything to me and D-Boy did this in one of the last podcasts, but if there was anything I could say to my younger self 2 years ago is that to keep pushing and that you are going to get through this. You are going to persevere. And I hope you can repeat those words, whoever is listening to this. I hope that you can truly know that you are so much stronger than you think and that the chapter that may be closing for you is going to open up so many more doors and so many more chapters. And with that, guys, that is all I got. Thanks for listening to my little yap session that I thought may be therapeutic for myself. And it is. I feel good. And I feel refreshed, rejuvenated, ready to take on the world of therapy. But thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. If you guys want to follow Millennium on Instagram, it's Millennium Counseling Center or MCC Athlete Wellness. You can also follow me on Instagram, Lyda Millennium, or on LinkedIn, or I believe that's it. I think that's all I've got for socials. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys on the next one.